Welcome to Mindset to Motion podcast, where transformation is not just a dream, but a journey we embark on together. I'm Chase, your guide on this path of health, fitness, and mental resilience. Each episode, we will dive deep into strategies that bridge the gap between wanting and becoming, exploring everything from fitness hacks, biooptimization, and nutrition tips to the power of a positive mindset and habit formation. So, whether you're taking your first steps or looking to elevate your journey, you're in the right place. Let's get set to put those aspirations into action. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Mindset to Motion podcast. I'm Chase, and today we're going to be talking about a nutrition-focused topic, which is around meal planning. And we're going to briefly touch on both meal planning and meal prep and what the differences are between those two. So let's dive in and understand what exactly is meal planning. So for some people, planning your meals out or the term meal planning might seem daunting or sound like it's something that's really difficult to do. But in reality, meal planning is simply getting organized and figuring out what you're going to eat ahead of time. What I can tell you is that as a busy father, working full time, also working as a coach and working as a personal trainer, trying to find time when it's dinner time to figure out what you're going to eat is really difficult. So when it's time to eat dinner, when it's time to eat lunch, walking to the refrigerator and looking without a plan of what you're going to eat can cause you to end up spending a lot of extra money and end up wasting a lot of time or wasting a lot of food because you end up double making something or eating things that you weren't planning to, or having to run to the store for something because you didn't plan for it. So meal planning is essentially getting organized with your thoughts and adjusting ahead of time to make sure that you have all of the groceries that you need, all of the staples that you need, making sure that you have everything planned out for your week. So when you go grocery shopping, you do just one trip to the store and it saves you time. It saves you money. You know exactly what you're going to have. It also allows you to ensure that you're hitting your macronutrients. So each of us should be receiving a certain amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fats every day. And by planning out your meals for the week, it allows you to ensure that you're hitting those calories or those caloric intake of the macronutrients that you need and keeping within your goals. Furthermore, it allows you to make sure that you're making those healthy decisions that you probably want to, but then when you're at the last minute and you didn't plan for it, you end up running to a fast food restaurant. Meal planning will help you ensure that you stay on track with your health and fitness and nutrition goals. Now, what's the difference between meal planning and meal prepping? So meal planning is just simply writing out your schedule for the week, making sure that you know exactly what meals you're going to be cooking on what day, ensuring that you have the foods that you are going to be cooking on those days already purchased and in the refrigerator and or in the freezer to make sure that they don't go bad. Now, meal prepping is when you take a day and you make a bunch of meals at one time. We're going to go over the differences of these and how each of them are helpful in their different ways. So meal planning can help you by you know exactly what foods you're going to eat each day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It also allows you, if you're making a larger meal, let's say on Monday, to be able to plan for the fact that you're going to have some leftovers from that meal on either Tuesday or Wednesday for lunch, or maybe for another dinner meal. This allows you to make sure that you're not wasting any of the foods that you have, and also make sure that you know exactly how many nutrients and how much vitamins and minerals you're getting through your meals and through the food that you're consuming. Now, meal planning is generally going to require that you do go shopping on one day. You make sure that you've got the grocery list and you've got all of the proteins and bases that you need and vegetables and fruits that you need all in that one day. Some of that food will go into the freezer if it's going to be cooked later in the week. Some of that food will go into the refrigerator in preparation for your earlier days in the week. And so for those of you who have dietary restrictions, one of the biggest things and one of the easiest ways to get through this meal planning is to focus on the meals and the foods that you can eat rather than focusing on the things that you can't eat. If you know that you like chicken and it's okay with your dietary restrictions to have chicken and have rice, make those meals and then figure out ways to make those foods taste good and not get boring for you. So what's the difference between meal planning and meal prepping? So meal prepping is you're going to take a day. Usually we see a lot of people like it either on Saturday or Sundays because they have more time. And to be honest with you, meal prepping does take a significant amount of time. If you're just meal prepping for yourself, probably 1 to 2 hours. And if you plan this out properly, you can make all the food that you need for an entire week in a 1 to 2 hour time span because you have multiple things going at the same time. You have the rice cooking, you have your veggies roasting, you have your meat cooking either on a grill or on the stove, and you're able to do all of these things simultaneously, which gives you the ability to get a lot of stuff done in one time. Now, if you have a large family like I do and you meal prep for all of them, it could take 4 to 6 hours for you to cut all the meats, to get everything cooked, to get all of the veggies cooked, to get rice and quinoa and amaranth cooked. Just depends on your situation. So I want to be honest and make sure that I'm not leading you to believe that regardless of the size of your family, you're probably going to be able to be finished in 1 to 2 hours. It's going to be based on how many people you're cooking for, it's going to increase the amount of time. But if you're a single person cooking just for yourself, busy professional, busy student, chances are you can meal prep for yourself in about 1 to 2 hours. And that gives you all the meals that you need for a week. How do we make this easy and repeatable? These one pot type meals like stir fry, those are something that you can make sure you're using clean ingredients. Make sure you're using low fat ingredients, low fat chickens. Make sure that you're not loading with tons of sodium dressings and tons of soy sauce when you're making these things. Makes it more healthy. And then what you do is you just make your own dressings and add those dressings to your foods in order to add the flavors that you want. The other thing about having your dressings on the side rather than cooking with the dressings is that you can control how much dressing you're putting on during your meal rather than saturating it while you're cooking. And now you're over consuming your fats and your oils and your sodium all in the meal because it was cooked into that meal. You don't have the ability to take it out after it's been cooked. So cooking in things like water, cooking in things like coconut oil or olive oil. So you want to use good quality oils to cook in. And if you can cook on a low temperature using water, that's really the best way to do it because it gives you the ability to not have to worry about that added fat and the added oils in your meals. Another thing that's really great about meal prep is that you're able to batch these things. If you're making something like chicken, rice, and veggies, right, you can make all of your meals. You can have breakfast, you can have lunch and dinners like that. They're basically the same thing. Change up the veggies, change up the grains a little bit, and you have all of the chicken cooked the same way. And like I said, if you make your own dressings, make them with healthier options, make it with less oils, less fats, and you have the ability to season them differently. You can have a taco seasoning, you can have a Greek seasoning, you can have different types of seasonings based on what you're in the mood for that day. And it really gives you the ability to change things up and keep it fun and exciting and not let your food get so boring. That's how I do it. I actually make most of my meals kind of neutral, season things with like garlic and onion and salt and pepper, that stuff. But then whenever I'm ready to eat it, I have a Korean barbecue sauce that I make myself. I have a spicy mayonnaise type thing that I make myself. And I try to find low fat, healthy options for the bases of these dressings so that when I add it to my meals, it gives me a different taste, but it also, I know I'm not oversaturating it with fats and oils and all of these bad things. We want to make sure that it's still healthy. Meal prepping is about making it convenient and making sure that you're having healthy options, but also the fact that you've planned this out. Now, what else does this allow you to do? Reduce wasted food. Now, that's only if you actually eat the planned meals. There are a lot of people who will meal prep and then they get bored with the meals that they make and then they end up going to a fast food store or a fast food chain and just grabbing something on the way home, or they bring it with them for lunch, but then they're like, oh, I don't really want to eat this. So then they go pick something up anyway. And that doesn't help you. And you're still going to have a lot of waste in that situation. So that's why making those meals that are similar, but you have the ability to make adjustments to them by changing up the dressing or changing up what you're putting on top, what you're garnishing it with, gives you the ability to really save on enjoying the meals and not wasting a bunch of food. By meal prepping, you can buy larger packs of things like chicken, ground beef. You want to make sure that you're getting low fat content. It gives you lots of protein when you're cooking it this way, but you're also, because you're making a bunch of meals at one time, you have the ability to take some of them, put them into the refrigerator, and you have the rest of them go into the freezer. good rule of thumb is that most foods should be consumed within 2 to 3 days of cooking. So if you're cooking on a Sunday and you're cooking enough meals for the entire week, half of that week should be going into the freezer. When you eat your meals on Monday, you should be taking a meal out of the freezer, putting it into the refrigerator for Wednesday. Tuesdays is already in there. And then just continue that. Every time you take a meal out of the refrigerator to eat it or to go heat it up to eat it, you should take one out of the freezer, replenish it in the refrigerator so it can start defrosting, and it'll be ready for you whenever you're ready to eat it in a couple of days. That is important to do. Maintains to make sure that your food stays fresh. And if you have that occasional gonna go out for dinner with your spouse tonight, you're gonna order pizza for the kids tonight, it's fine that food doesn't go bad and you're still able to use it. So planning for these meals and making sure that you know what you're going to eat helps you to save money, helps you to save time. So saving money because we're not wasting food, we're not buying food every time we want to have a meal. And let's break that down a little bit. I don't know about you, but for me, there are lots of times when I don't have a meal planned for an evening. And then usually the conversation goes something like this. Hey, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? I don't know. I don't know either. And you go back and forth, and then somebody says, you know what? I would love to have, burgers that we make at home tonight. Well, we don't have beef patties. We don't have buns. We don't have, are we going to do baked fries? Are we going to do seasoned fries? Are we going to have vegetables? What are we going to have? We don't have those things. So now I have to go to the store to get it. I go to the store to get it. And I always end up buying a lot of other things that we didn't have, that we didn't really need. But now that I'm here, I may as well grab them. So it ends up costing you more money to not have a plan, because now every time you run into the store, it's another $150 for, and even though you think, man, $150 for one meal, half the stuff that you're buying is not just for that meal. Maybe it's a staple that you ran out of. Maybe it's something else that you needed in your house, like paper towels or something, right? You didn't have to have it right then, but because you were at the store, you went ahead and picked it up. So those little shopping trips can drastically increase your grocery budget. You end up going back and forth to the store all the time. And I know that for our family, whenever we don't have our meals planned and we don't prep our meals ahead of time, it means that we end up running to the store almost every day. Even though we went grocery shopping, we bought every groceries for the whole week. Oh, we forgot to get this. Oh, we forgot to get that. Oh, this isn't here and this isn't there. Versus when you're buying things for the goal of actually prepping them on a specific day. Like for us, we buy groceries on Saturday, get everything put away. We have our plan for what we're going to be cooking. We do all of the meal prep on Sunday, except for our bases, right? So our rice, our quinoa, our amaranth, those things get cooked on Saturday. They go into the refrigerator overnight, and then they get added into the meals that they're being cooked the next day. It frees up our Instant Pot or our rice cooker or whatever to do other things on the day that we're actually prepping. So make sure that you're mindful of the fact that if you don't plan these meals out, promise you, you are spending more money on groceries, and you're probably spending more money on food waste, things that you bought that you forgot to cook or that you forgot to put in the freezer, and they end up going bad in the refrigerator because you didn't plan for it. When you do have a plan and you purchase the groceries that you need in order to execute that plan, and then prep those meals ahead of time so that whenever it's time to eat, all you have to do is grab it and heat it up, you're going to save money. Now, the other thing that this does is it helps you save time. How does this help you save time? You figure, wow, I'm wasting an entire day on Sunday cooking meals. How is this going to save me time? I lost a whole day. Well, yes, you lose one day or a part of one day in order to plan and prep and cook your meals, but all of those other days, you already know what you're going to eat. So this saves you time, because if you had everything already prepared, all you have to do is heat it up, right? And I've had some people ask me or say, like, well, I get these individual meal, you're prepping for one, but what if you're prepping for a large family? You can do the same type of thing, and you just put it in a large dish. I will tell you that if you're going to put it in a large glass dish that you're going to reheat in the oven, it does take a couple of hours to take something from frozen and take it into the oven and heat it up. So usually when we make meals like that, we just take it out of the freezer, throw it into the oven like a few hours before dinner, and it's just heating up. It doesn't take any extra effort from us. It just goes into the oven so that when we're ready for dinner, it's ready. So if you can do everything in one meal, making a homemade lasagna and you just have it ready to go in, making pot roast and you're just going to reheat it, making, like for us, when we do pot roast, we just prep all of the vegetables and stuff ahead of time. We have them in these reusable Ziploc bags. And on the day of, we just throw the stuff into the crock pot, turn it on, and it's cooking for the day, right? So you have different ways of accomplishing your goal of saving time, saving money, saving food waste, right? Not throwing stuff away because it's gone bad, that can really help you hit your goals. Now, lastly, what I want to talk to you about is how does this affect our nutrition goals? How does this help us maintain our goals of staying on a specific calorie count or staying on a specific macro count? When you're meal prepping and you're separating the foods that you've cooked into these individual containers, gives you the ability to weigh them right there. And you know for a fact that this has the amount of protein that you need, has the amount of grains that you need. It's reduced enough to where you don't have all of the fats in there, and you can add 1 to 2 tablespoons worth of a dressing onto it and still stay within your allotted fat content for the day. This is how it helps you stay on track, because these days of like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to grab a burger, that massively throws your calorie count off. That massively increases the amount of fat that you're taking in. I guarantee you that if you're trying to go for a calorie deficit, you missed it that day. So it's really important to make sure that using something like meal planning and meal prepping will help you achieve your goals of staying to a specific calorie count. And for some of those, so for some of us who don't focus on calories specifically, but we're focused more on making sure we're hitting a specific amount of macronutrients. I know I need to hit X number of grams of protein per day. This helps you get that, because you know that each of these meals that you put in here, you have to eat 3 or 5 meals based on how much you put in each of those containers. That tells you, to hit my calories for the day, I have to consume X, Y, and Z. And that's how it's going to help you get there. I'd love to hear if you've had some successes or failures in meal prepping and meal planning in the past. Love to hear from you. But the biggest thing that I like to try to tell people is, don't make this complicated. Right? It doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to eat a different meal and a different version of something every single day. If you can make this simple and repeatable, then you're more likely to stick with it. Last week, we talked about the power of simple habits, right? And having these simple habits of things like, I'm going to eat chicken, ground beef, and ground turkey. Those are my 3 main proteins. I'm going to have quinoa and rice, and I'm going to do beans and vegetables as my main carbs. That's going to make it so much easier if you can just find that way of finding things that you enjoy eating, you can eat every day, and just change up the dressings that you put on there. Season it a little bit differently to where you have a different flavor. A lot of these seasonings you can find that have 0 calories, they have low sodium options, and you can salt it to how much you want. There's nothing wrong with having sodium. Salt is good for you. You do need it, but I find that some of the seasonings that you buy just have too much for my taste. So I like to salt it based on what I like. So I get low sodium or no sodium seasonings that give me the flavors that I want. Then I add the salt that I want when I'm ready to eat it. Definitely try to make this a simple, repeatable habit, something that you can do on a regular basis, and something that's not so complicated that you're trying to figure out how to have a different meal for breakfast, lunch, dinner, 5, 6 days a week. You can have something different on all of those. If you look at the way we usually work, most of us eat the same 5 to 7 meals in a weekly basis. We don't go crazy and do all of these different things. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're planning out and prepping your meals for this next week. And let us know if you find anything that makes it easier for you to succeed. As we wrap up this episode, I just want you to be mindful of keeping things simple, making a decision that your health is important, and making plans around a simple and easy nutrition hacks like meal planning and meal prepping to make a huge difference. Next week, we're going to be jumping into how important sleep is into the role of health and fitness. Now, a lot of us don't really put enough emphasis, myself included, into how important sleep is for our fitness goals and how quality rest can help enhance our fitness achievements. Thank you for tuning into the Mindset to Motion podcast. Keep your minds and your bodies in motion. And that wraps up another episode of the Mindset to Motion podcast. Thank you for sharing this time with us. And remember, every step you take is a step closer to a better you. For more insights, tips, and stories, make sure you subscribe, follow, and join us next time as we continue to transform our mindsets and set our lives in motion. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram for more resources and support. Here's to moving forward, one thought, one action at a time. Until next time, keep your mindset in motion.